Hello and welcome once again to the Windy City's finest on location. We are here in Grande Prairie at the Grande Prairie Live Theater. He's Mac, I'm Perry, and this is
Alyssa.
Yes, thank you so much for having us and joining us here today. I'm super excited to jump into our first segment with you, but really quick, could you just give us a really broad overview of what it is you do artistically? We'll dive into it more later, but just so our people know.
I am a theater artist, so I act, I direct, and I write for the theater.
Yeah, you're a powerhouse, it sounds like. You do all the things, all about storytelling. I love it. We'll learn more about that later. But right now, we'll do some icebreakers, just get to know you personally a bit more. And the first thing we always do is a little bit of trivia. How are you with trivia, typically?
Depends how trivial.
Okay. We'll see. The stakes are not very high at all. And you also have some fun ones for me to try and answer, so we'll see how that goes. But my first piece of trivia for you, Alyssa, is Grande Prairie lies approximately how many meters above sea level? A, 500 meters, B, 600 meters, C, 669 meters, or D, 850 meters?
Approximately 669 meters.
Yes, you got it right, which is apparently about 2195 feet, 2,195 feet, which is quite high. It's quite high. Is it typically dry here? I imagine it would be quite dry.
Yeah, I think it's quite dry.
Right on. Well, you got it. I'll throw it to you for our first piece of top secret trivia prepared by Mac. And I have no idea what this is, so yeah, take it away with the first piece.
Mac loves road trips, including the one they took to get here. Prior to this trip, his longest road trip was A, from the east of Spain to Porto, Portugal, B, across the US coast to Tijuana, Mexico, C, from St. John's, Newfoundland to the Buena Vista, D, up to Alaska via Vancouver, BC.
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to keep track of all those different routes in my brain. And I feel like a lot of them are very viable. Mac, you've done quite a bit of traveling. So I know Europe isn't typically very large, like Spain to Portugal. But at the same time, I feel like that might be fine. I also know that you've done lots of traveling in Canada. Oh, goodness gracious me. Let's go with the Spain-Portugal one. Is that right?
No, that is wrong. It was across the US coast to Tijuana, Mexico.
I did not know that. Awesome. We'll move on to our next mini game here. So this is this or that. And yeah, I'll let you pick the first one and read it out and we'll see what we get.
Ski or snowboard?
Ski or snowboard? I think for myself it would be snowboard, mainly just because my brother does it. And so it's a good opportunity to bond with him. How about yourself?
I am adamantly against falling down mountains, no matter what sort of equipment I'm using. It is a boat. My brother is an avid snowboarder, and so it probably makes him sad that I will not partake ever. I've been stuck on many a hill.
Yeah, no, that's super fair. It is kind of crazy. It's a piece of plastic and you're flying down a mountain. And,
I am afraid of heights and I am afraid of accelerating, so it's
like
not
the two things that are part of it, yeah. Okay, our next thing is sandcastles or snowmen?
Sand castles.
Yeah.
Definitely for me. I love just actually sitting in the sand with some water nearby so I can wet it and just carving into it. And that's actually, one of my favorite things to do.
Nice.
I'm not super into cold.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder why I live here.
Yeah,
And it's summertime. It's beautiful.
True. Yes, it was beautiful today, for example. Yeah. I think for myself, I would probably go snowman, and I'm not sure why, but that's what I'm going with. Yeah. Our next one for you is football or hockey. Or
Hockey, I guess. If I understand a sport, then I get really into it. I really like rules. I really like when people are trying their best. Those are all things that I really enjoy. I don't know enough about, so I guess I've seen more hockey, so I know it more.
Totally.
Like football, like American football or Canadian football, I don't understand a lot of the rules. The points don't make a lot of sense to me. I don't really get it.
Yeah.
I did get roller derby was my sport that I got really into. I reffed roller derby for a long time, and that was super fun. I really like rules.
Interesting. I think for myself, I'd go football, but I might cheat and do like British or Canadian football. Just because I played it growing up, and it's a thing for me. Yeah. Great. We'll move on to our tumbling towers here.
Alrighty.
Just to refresh the rules, you can't pick from the top three, and once you take a piece, you'll set it on top, and I'll let you do the honors. It's only ever been knocked over once by ours truly, Mac. Yes, he's very ashamed of it, and I'll have to bring it up every time.
If I touch one, do I have to take it, or can I?
No.
Okay.
No. Unless you typically play by that rule, but we're good with just getting the question out.
18.
18. What is something that takes a lot of time, but is definitely worth it, in your opinion?
Lately, I've been spending a lot of time doodling or sketching, and I've gotten markedly better because I spend more time on it. So I think just like practicing drawing, I never considered myself very good at it, and then there was a small time in my life where I got better at it, and then now that I just do it more, it's such a drastic improvement that you can like look at really specifically if you keep a sketchbook over a long period of time.
I love that. Yeah, and I love how it's creatively engaged. I love that. If I were to try to go with like a less creatively engaged thing, I think it would be like just like organizing files, organizing things. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think that it can help a lot depending on what you're doing. So it's something I've been trying to focus on a bit more this year. Okie dokie. I guess it's my turn.
Your turn.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what we get. Should we make this dangerous? No, that one's pretty solid. Let's do this one. 34. What's one talent that you wish you had?
One talent I wish I had was stock market investing.
Oh, yeah.
I wish that I was just naturally really good at picking the winners and cashing it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would help a lot.
Yeah, it would. I feel like there's a lot of talent-based things that it's from failing at them that you like really get the richness of it.
Right.
I don't care very much about the emotional richness of money, but it's really helpful to have some.
Yeah.
So I hear.
Yeah. I hear that too. And I feel like, failing at the stock market is not something you want to do, though, in order to get better at it. So, yeah, it's kind of a catch-22 there.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. I love that. I'll throw it back to you to pick our next one. 36. Let's go with what's one thing you always put off or procrastinate?
Anything that doesn't have a deadline. I would say organizing files, perhaps. Although I hear it such a good use of time. But there's like lots of corners of stuff that I'm like, I should keep this stuff, but it's just randomly placed somewhere and never to be seen again. And I procrastinate sorting through those books.
Yeah, super fair. I mean, if you don't have if it doesn't serve a purpose of like going through it, right? No, that's super fair. One thing that I always put off, oh goodness gracious me, I'd probably say like dentist visits. It's probably not a good thing, but I just put it off. I don't know. I'm not like averse to them. I don't hate them or anything. I just put them off. That's what I gotta do. But that's all the time we have for this segment. So yeah, this has been the Windy City's Finest on location here at Grande Prairie Live Theatre. He's Mac, I'm Perry, and this is
Alyssa.
We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Windy City's Finest on location with Mac and Perry, here in Grande Prairie at the Grande Prairie Live Theatre. I'm Mac, he's Perry, and this is
Alyssa.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed the first segment with Perry and kind of learning about your interests and that you don't like to go fast or go up to high things. So it's great. But now I really am more curious about your art. That's why we're here to talk about art, and that's why we're in a theater. And so yeah, that's kind of a bit of a hint. I know you did say at the top, but I'll get you kind of just to say the same thing of what is your art that you do?
Yeah, so I am an actor and I do some directing and writing as well. Performing, bringing stories alive.
Great.
That's what I like to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited to learn about your journey as an artist and how you got to where you were and are and all that stuff. So yeah, maybe let's just start at the beginning. You mentioned that you are an actor. What led you to start acting?
I think my upbringing, so I grew up in a pretty creative household, and I have siblings and cousins, and we would get together and put on shows. My oldest sister is very talented, really creative, and also exceptionally good at organizing people towards projects, even if all those people are, small children. So from a really early on, we would put on plays for our parents and that kind of stuff. And so I think that's where it all began. That did also involve some writing. But yeah, just kind of getting out and performing.
And what sort of plays would you do as a kid, if you remember?
Oh, yeah. So one year when I was just about 10, we did fairy tales, but we wanted to make them have feminist endings, but we didn't really understand what feminism was, so we just made the endings different and made all the female characters have a lot of attitude. And that was a really fun one. We also once took Aesop's fables and then made an operetta out of them. We did a Broadway show once, but we also didn't really understand. We thought that everyone on Broadway would lip sync everything. And so we wrote songs and then we audio recorded just the songs. We didn't have music to go along with it. And then we lip synced to our own recordings of us singing the songs with some choreography. So stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it sounds really, really interesting. I just want to get a sense of your style when you were first starting out. That's cool. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I mean, you were very young, but what was that like? Like performing for your family, with your family, things like that.
Awesome. It was really fun to make. I think that most kids, when you play make believe, that's kind of what you're doing is kind of making up a play. You just don't always have an audience, so having that component of audience was great. We would the fairy tale one that we did after we finished the first, because we did 3 different fairy tales. So after we finished the first one and we all took a bow, our parents just started throwing stuff at us and booing because they thought that would be really funny. So we were I don't know, it was a really fun intro into performing, I guess.
No, it sounds lovely. Great. I wish I could have seen that. Or not, I don't know. Yeah. And then so I guess, what came next in your artistic journey?
So then in junior high and high school, we didn't have the funding for drama classes. Had been some cuts before I had begun at that school. And so there was no drama class that you could take, but we did have a drama club. And so we would do 1 play a year at the high school one-act festival. And so I started being involved in that, first working backstage, and then got into some shows in high school. And so, that was more kind of conventional. My entry into conventional theater. I really enjoyed it, and I did take like extracurricular classes. When I was in high school, I lived in Onaway, Alberta, which is about 45 minutes outside of Edmonton, and so my mom would drive me a couple times a week into evening classes in Edmonton so that I could do some theater learning there. And I did summer camps after grade 10 and after grade 11. There's Arts Trek drama camp that takes place at Red Deer College, put on by the Alberta Drama Association, I think, or I believe. And that's like a week-long, sleepaway camp where you are really intensive in theater classes and you study a show. And that was really, I think, the time where I started to kind of understand that people did that for a living, and that you could kind of dedicate your life to that method of storytelling. At the time, there was some time when I was in high school, there was a shift for me. So I really wanted to be a politician and go into politics. That's what I wanted to do when I was early high school. And then somewhere, probably through Arts Trek, it shifted my focus to wanting to be an actor instead. And I think it's because I saw that what I would want to do with politics was so far down the road that I would just get frustrated. But I feel like whenever there's societal change, politics gets to it last. And that first it's an idea, and then that idea spreads, and how that idea spreads, I believe, is through the arts. So theater is the one that I was most called to and most talented at. But I think any of the arts is what spreads those big ideas. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to be, was more in the cutting edge of societal change.
Yeah, I find that really interesting, because I feel like when you talk about changes in society, a lot of times people gravitate towards, write a letter to your MLA or the government side. I don't think they would initially think of make art. So I think that's interesting. That's your perspective on how to make change. Yeah. I'm curious, I don't know where we are in the timeline here, but when did you end up in Grande Prairie?
So I moved to Grande Prairie in 2015. So in 2014, I had a daughter, and that was a joyous surprise for me. And so in 2013, I had got pregnant. I moved in. I was living in Edmonton at that time. I moved in with my parents back to Onaway to kind of save up some money, get out of some debt, that kind of stuff, in preparation for my daughter. And then I lived with them until she was a year and a half. And at that time, my sister, who was living in Grande Prairie, she was having her first child in 2015, and we wanted our kids to be close and be able to do shows together and grow up together. So I moved here then, and the day after I moved here, I auditioned for a play here at Grande Prairie Live Theatre called The Dining Room. So that was my first show here in Grande Prairie. The main character of the show was this dining room table. And so lots of different things would happen at the table. And I had so much fun building. I really like, acting-wise, I really like small characters that you can make a meal out of. That's my favorite. And this one, I was playing like 3 or 4 characters that all you could just dine out on all the choices that you got to make because you didn't, there's such small parts. I love playing like background characters. I find that really fun. I remember once, so we used to have to do various homework things for character roles in theater school. And in Red Deer College, we had to write character bios for, just so we kind of know where our characters are coming from. And mine would be like epic. So I did a show at Red Deer College called The Jazz Cracker, which is adaptation of the Nutcracker, but like put into more modern places. But it had been written like 10 years before, so all its modernity had like gotten a little bit passe by the time we did it. But it was a really fun show, and half of the show were inside of a computer, and all of the chorus, which I was of the chorus or part of the chorus, were just bits of a computer. And I ended up writing a 20-page character bio for my bit of computer. So, yeah, I really like creating stories out of nothing and then incorporating them into my work. And yeah.
Lovely, yeah. That's great, yeah. It's so interesting. And I mean, we're going to run out of time. We can't go for an hour or something. I feel like we're at like 2016. We have another decade to fill in. But that's okay. Just I think to round it out, because I know like it seems like a big part of your practice. You mentioned it briefly, and I think just reading about your work here is that sense of community, right? And community involvement. Just tell me a little about that.
Yeah. Again, so I really love people, and I think that people are their best when they're holding each other up, and that's how we can all bloom. And theater is just such a collaborative medium. And all I want in life is to just get together with groups of people and just see what happens. So here in Grande Prairie, I have been able to participate in or head up a few collaboratively created shows, so collective creation type stuff. So we did a show called Written on the Body 2 years ago, where we started with kind of an idea, and so we wanted to do, I was interested in tattoos, interested in how they've gained so much popularity over time, and I theorized that part of that is because our worlds are getting a little bit smaller at the same time that they're getting bigger, but we're scrolling through things rather than sitting down and having conversations. More often than not, we know a lot of people, a lot of us have real connections and friendships to people that we maybe haven't met face to face. So a lot of things is more, you have to communicate a little bit more with what you look like than maybe you used to when it was more sitting down and having a conversation. And I think that there's lots of things that our bodies tell the world about us. If we have a scar or a piercing or our hair is a certain color or wear a certain type of clothes, it's all giving information to the world. And I think that tattoos is a shorthand of being able to say, this is who I am, and so this is how I'm sharing that with you, instead of in case I don't have the chance to sit down with you and tell you about it, this is who I am. So anyway, we created a show, that was the initial impetus, and then it was a lot of, giving homework, bringing stuff in, working out some stuff, and then staging it, and that kind of work really excites me and interests me.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, awesome. I have time for one more question. We've switched up a little bit for our last question. And I'm going to ask you, how your art, your artistic practice, how has that changed your everyday life?
How how has it changed my everyday life? It's hard to say because I've been doing it so much like forever. So like I just developed into this person with this everyday life through the arts. But there are certain lessons that I do keep relearning, and then I'll have an example to remind myself of. So one of my favorite examples is I took a class called Mind and Body in National Theatre School. And we had to do all these pretty intense physical, repetitive movements. You had to walk with a partner, but not always walk. Sometimes it was jumping, sometimes it was hopping, whatever, down a line, and you'd stay in sync with your partner and then go back. And it was, we'd finish the class and just be like sitting in pools of our own sweat, and like dust from our feet would be in piles like around us. And it was a really intense class. But there was one where we had to do these 2 big leaps, and I would do them and I would try so hard to just get high up. And my teacher said, Alyssa, do you need your eyebrows to jump? And I realized that I was trying to show how hard I was working by like making my eyebrows really just jump around. And I said, no. And she said, well, then stop using them to jump. So I said, okay. And so then I would relax my face, and all the energy would then go into my legs instead of my face. And I jumped way higher when I wasn't trying to show everybody how high I was jumping. So that is a lesson I've learned about 50 times over in different ways. That's just the metaphor that like reminds me about that lesson of, just kind of letting things happen and doing things without doing all the extra stuff that makes everything more complicated and harder. Mm-hmm. I will relearn that often, of just like, okay, I'm really struggling with this. Why am I struggling so hard? And how can I relax my eyebrows about it a little bit?
Lovely. I think that's a great note to end on. That's lovely. Yeah. Well, yeah, I've really enjoyed the conversation and getting to know a bit about your journey as much as we could cover in our time together. I think that's all the time we have for this segment. This has been the Windy City's Finest On Location with Mac and Perry here in Grande Prairie at the Grande Prairie Live Theatre. I'm Mac, he's Perry, and this is
Alyssa.
We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome once again to the Windy City's Finest On Location in Grande Prairie at none other the Grande Prairie Live Theatre. And he's Mac, I'm Perry, and this is
Alyssa Hudson.
Yes. I thoroughly enjoyed your segment with Mac and learning about your journey and the things you've done. This segment is just to dive into maybe a little more specifics to do with a project or two. And I think let's just dive right in. What is the project that you wanted to walk us through, and we'll dive into the process of it all.
Yeah, so this one is, I wrote a story for storytelling class at National Theatre School, where we would get different assignments while we were in that class, and then we'd have to come with a story about or following that assignment. And this one was something that you overcame was the assignment. And so I ended up writing a fairy tale, an autobiographical fairy tale about my high school years, and kind of. And then later in our third year, so that was in first year that I wrote the story, and then in third year we did a solo show project where we needed to develop a solo show of about 10 minutes. And so I chose to use this story and tell the story as a one-person show, and then add staging to it and that kind of thing. And then since then, I've done other pieces along the same vein. So I'm really I'm working on a series of short stories about me as a kid, and then me looking back on those memories as an adult. So I did one for a one-act festival here called I Had to Pee My Pants, about when I peed my pants in kindergarten, and what my thought processes were and why that had to happen. And so I have kind of this series, but this was sort of the beginning of that, making solo shows out of my works of short, not quite fiction.
Yeah. And what was the title of this one that we'll
This
dive
one is
into?
called The Princess and the Giant.
Princess and the Giant. Awesome. And just really quick here, just to dive into that idea of like writing a story first, and then it sounds like there was a little bit of like ideation time, like walking away from it, and then coming back to it. And I'm just curious what you could share about that part of the process. Was it intentional, or was it just because you were in school doing other things? And yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't, this one I hadn't intended to turn into a theater piece. I had just written it as a story to tell that story, and tell it in a way that I thought would be the best representation of what I was trying to communicate. And then when I had to write a solo show, I was trying to write a variety of things, and came upon this, or like remembered about this one again, and thought that would be interesting, but then I had to think about, does it add anything to the story to stage it? Is it better to keep it as a story someone can read or listen to, or does it add to the experience if you're watching somebody tell the story? And in this case, I think that it really stands alone as a story. Also, it added a lot of layers by staging it in the way that I did.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like, what layers do you think it added? Like, and because I really appreciate like acknowledging the fact that it stood alone, and like asking that question of like, why am I doing this? Because I also believe in doing art for art's sake and just staging it and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious about hearing like if there was any intentionality behind what layers that you had to add. Yeah.
So I've done it a couple of times, and mostly, so the first iteration of it, throughout the piece while I'm telling the story, I'm creating circles out of materials that are part of the story. And so they start bigger and they get smaller and smaller, and then eventually just confine me into a very small circle. And then at the end of the circle, I break out. In another iteration that I did, the materials I'd be pulling out of something, so like one of them was cigarettes. So I had put cigarette butts all around me in a circle in one of them. In another one, I had a cigarette pack that I would open up, and this kind of string, elasticy sort of string would come, and I would make sort of a wall weaving this string between me and the audience. So I think what that adds is a way for the audience to be invited to think about the story in a different way. So if they're going, oh, well, why are there these circles? Why are they getting smaller? Or what is this wall that we're seeing up here? And what else is that telling me? I think is a really interesting layer. I sort of, I do a lot of, I really like a lot of weird experimental theater. And a lot of times people will see something I've directed or written, and they'll go, I didn't get it. And I'll say, the point isn't for you to get it. The point is for you to understand yourself differently because of how you watched it, what you thought about while you were watching it. Like, the point is not to like figure out what I was trying to say. The point is pulling out what speaks to you.
Yeah. There's more we could dive into there, but I'm very curious to hear a little bit more specifically about the story of The Princess and the Giant.
Yeah.
If you want to just pick a part of it, your favorite part, or just work chronologically.
Sure. I'll start at the beginning and then I'll go a bit of the way through.
I might stop you at some point to ask questions.
I think, I'll tell the beginning of the story until maybe the appearance of the giant, and then we can.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. Once upon a time, there was a princess. She had blonde hair and a smile that reminded everyone of life's wonder. One day, Princess's kindergarten class was playing a game. The class divided into small groups, and each group was to make a circle by holding hands. Across the room from Princess was a small prince. And for one arbitrary reason or another, no one in his group would hold his hand. Princess noticed this injustice, dropped the hands of the others in her group, marched across the classroom, took the prince's hand in hers, and continued the game. Because that's what princesses do. Some years pass, as years always do, and then a dark cloud came. Princess's father, the king, died. And Princess became sad and lonely and scared. The kingdom rallied around Princess. They brought gifts of cakes and casseroles, pastries and pastas, chocolate and cheese. An old queen told Princess, "The best cure for depression, my dear, is chocolate, and lots of it." Unsure of what else to do, Princess took the old queen's advice and started to eat and eat and eat and eat. She was trying to feed her sadness, her loneliness, and her fear, unaware that they would never be full with food. She ate and ate and ate until she was a giant.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. And so that's, yeah, the kind of first part of it. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. So many layers. And yeah, I'm curious about, because even this, right, is somewhat of an adaptation of it, of like, yeah, into a story as opposed to a performance. But I love that the performing side of it still comes out, right? Even with the characters. And I'm just curious, yeah, what could you tell me about that process of like keeping those things like where you, it seems like you find joy in it, right? And how to keep those threads alive.
Yeah, like when staging it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So we did work, when we were doing the solo show, we did have a instructor that worked as our kind of director, who would give feedback about, okay, in this moment, we need to see the 5-year-old princess rather than the storyteller. So like moving in and out of those things. I hit 2 of the circles that I would make, or the and so one of them was when the father dies, I would cut off a piece of my hair and burn it and put the ashes into and hair into a circle. Wow. And when she'd eat, then I took chocolate bars and eat more chocolate bars, and made a circle with those. So those were 2 of those kind of layers of like, that starts narrowing those situations that just sort of close in.
And I'm very much hearing that sense. We're kind of almost out of time here, but I very much get that sense of creating the meaning for yourself, like with those objects, but also the story itself is the characters thrown into those situations, doesn't necessarily choose them. And then there's also a correlation for me of like the audience, they choose to come see the thing, but they don't necessarily choose that you're going to cut off a piece of your hair and burn it, or that it's chocolate, right? I don't know if you have any last thoughts on that.
Well, stuff, for example, like the cutting off of the hair and burning it. I know that for me, the reason I did that is because my dad died because he was on back of a truck that blew up. Wow. So he burned. And so that is meaningful. For people that don't know that piece of my story, they could interpret lighting hair on fire as burning of passions, or as hell, or as There's lots of things. Fire is a really
Yeah.
evocative sort of imagery. So it doesn't have to be, they don't have to know that piece, even though I was very specific about it. They don't have to know that to be able to read in what is she saying about this process of grieving by lighting her hair on fire and moving there. That,
Yeah. Wow. Yes. I love that. I think we're pretty much out of time, but I think that just that idea of what is kind of like potentially private, but that allows people to project their own sort of memories that are malleable onto what you've created. I think that's beautiful. This has been the Windy City's finest on location at the Grande Prairie Live Theatre. He's Mac, I'm Perry, and this has been
Alyssa!
It's Mac and Perry in the place. Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry
Go live to create.
Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry invite you to stay.